Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Artists of Color. I am your host, Elaine Hall-Corbin. Nice to have you with us this afternoon. And guess I'm going to tell you that I have an honored and wonderful guest here with me this afternoon. His name is Daniel Callahan, an absolutely fantastic artist. I had the pleasure of meeting him and also viewing his work. In two different places, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
The first time I met you, well, the first time I saw your work was at the Deli Cafe.
Right.
And I kept saying, what's he doing? Because you were doing someone's face.
Oh, you saw me doing it
I
live.
saw
yeah.
you doing a face. And it was like, what's he doing? And Bipla, the owner of the cafe, he said,
Yep.
well, you need to meet him. So actually, we never met. We didn't really actually meet until I saw you at BAM's. And this is what Daniel Callahan does. It's called MassQ. And did a little research. So, Daniel, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much
I
for having
so
me.
much appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Took a little bit of coaxing
Yeah.
and a little bit of catching up to you to do this.
Yeah.
But I am so glad and so honored that you're with me today.
I'm honored to be here.
I would like to actually tell my audience a little bit about Daniel. Tell us about you.
Okay. Man, what do you want to know?
I want to know who is Daniel? Where did Daniel come from? How did Daniel become an artist?
Okay.
The type of artist that you are is most intriguing.
Yeah, I consider myself a transmedia artist, and most people get a little confused by that title, but it just means that the mediums I use are almost inconsequential. What it is I use a variety of different mediums to tell my story, to express myself. That ranges from video to painting to collage to animation to music, and the medium is not as much as important as is the message. In terms of who I am, and where I'm from, I'm from two people, Elaine Callahan and Jeanette Callahan. My mother was and is a doctor, medical doctor. She's a pediatrician. She works with children. And my father was a professor of New Testament studies, and he's since gone out of the world of academia into the world of sustainable agriculture. So that's something that he's really a big proponent of.
Fantastic agriculture.
Yeah, so I grew up in a house with a very big love of reading, education, studying, academics, and also a house that really valued healing, and that definitely has influenced my practice.
Now, seeing you just said healing, and to me that kind of coincides with MassQ.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Since you've said that, when I was doing a little bit of research on you and trying to work through exactly, what your site had to say about you, what you had to say about you, that came to mind. And let's get really actually into the meat of MassQ.
Sure.
Year of the MassQ. Explain what Year of the MassQ is about.
Okay, yeah, well, I guess I should explain what masking is.
Yes.
So what I do is I use paint, and I apply the paint to the face in a ritual fashion. Usually when we think of masks, we think of something that is hiding our identity or something that we hide behind. We think of masks used in Halloween, where you're either hiding behind something or you're assuming the identity of another thing. But what I try to do is I try to use paint to reveal something about someone. So to take what's inside and put it outside for others to see, and try to capture that in line and color and shape.
Now, when you do that, what do you see when the mask comes forward?
Yeah, well, I think it's almost like a map of an encounter. So before I mask somebody, I will sit and talk with them for a very long period of time and try to get who they are and where they are in life. And during that process, I will kind of gauge looking at their face, different patterns they'll simply start coming towards me, and I'll see them and I'll start just sketching them down. And I try not to put too much of my own thinking or my own intention into it. I really just try to let it happen and let it come, so that at the end, what we have is almost like a expression of this interaction I've had with the person, and it incorporates a lot of who they are in very interesting ways, and incorporates a lot of our interaction in very interesting ways.
Is that now when you do that, is that from a spiritual standpoint, or is that from a psychological standpoint?
That's a good question. I honestly don't see much of a distinction between the two.
Okay.
And when it comes to especially Black culture, but cultures of indigenous peoples all over the world, there really is never a distinction between what is spiritual and what is psychological. There's no real distinction between what is spiritual and what is anything else. The spirit world and the world that we live in are all sort of intermingled. There's not much of a difference. So yes, to answer your question, it is a spiritual interaction.
It's more spiritual than it's like, to you, well, to me, do you see it as more being spiritual than more than a psychological?
Again, I don't really see much of a difference. I guess it would be more spiritual only because it's not so much linked to your thought. Okay. I try not to think too much when I'm doing it.
Okay.
It's very much more organic and much more physical than it is mental. So I guess in that way it would be more spiritual than psychological, but I don't know. They're just words.
When I see, that's true, but when I see it and then I'm listening to you talk now, but then doing my little bit of research that I did on you, I kind of see it more of a spiritual than a psychological. You know, like you say, you talk to the person and you kind of get an idea of that person and more what they're going through or what you see inside of them. And that's how you bring your mask to fruition and bringing it out. When you're having that conversation with a person that you're doing a mask on or for, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for depth, I think. I'm listening for depth. So my questions are usually start off very, surface, but then I try to get deeper and deeper with my questions to just really figure out what it is about them that is different from everyone else, because everyone is unique. And as I'm listening to them get deeper, I'm looking at their face and I'm noticing their features. I'm noticing the way that the face is shaped, the way it curves, the way it dips, the way the valleys, the precipices or what have you. And then as I'm looking at that, these shapes sort of just start coming. It's almost, I don't know. It's very hard to describe. I just see them,
Okay. No, I'm
so
kind of like this this image that we have.
So yeah. Okay. Let me talk about like specific examples. So this image I did during a series I did called Month of the Mask, where every day for a month I used my own face as a canvas and I created a mask. And throughout that process, I learned a lot of things. So this particular mask was inspired by a plant that I had in my room. Yeah, that plant's actually in the picture there. And this plant was kind of dying. I had just come back home from California. And I was in a very low place myself, and this plant in my room was in a very low place. It was kind of dying.
It was picking up on you.
Maybe so. When I arrived, it was not in such good shape. So over the course of this process of sort of healing myself, I also started to work on this plant, to water it, to wipe it down, and over the course of time, it became well again. So this mask was really almost an interaction I had with the plant. It was almost a mask of the plant where I assumed some of the characteristics of the plant and this bond I had with the plant, and that we were both going through this journey together. Was kind of something that I tried to express in the mask.
That's interesting. A plant, then you, and the connection. I kind of can see it.
Yeah.
And then listening to you talk about it, and the fact that The plant was at a low, a low time as far as growth and being out there, and being fresh. But you having that same type of issue and going through that type of low time in your time, and both of the connections.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, it's as weird as it sounds, like, okay, you're connecting with a plant, that's weird. But it's really not. I mean,
But it's not.
It's not,
No.
and once you really start to think about it, it's like the whole world is simply this dynamic between different parts, and everything is connected. And, so if something is feeling a certain way, there's waves of reverberation all the way to other things that seem to be not connected, but they all are.
Well, when you think about it, the connection as far as us as human beings,
Right.
and life in general, we're all connected, because plant life, human life, we're all connected in some
Absolutely.
manner, shape, or form.
Absolutely.
Tell me a little bit about your project.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right.
let's talk
That's
about
what your
that.
original question was.
Yes.
So Year of the Mask. So I talked briefly about Month of the Mask. That was almost a journey within myself.
Right.
And then Year of the Mask was the project that's still ongoing that I did after that. And that was me sort of going out to my world. So using this masking as a platform for other people to tell their stories and to share of themselves. So a lot of it was collaboration based. I collaborated with people from many different types of disciplines and industries,
Wow.
artists, pastors, social workers, innovators, creatives from all different types of industries. And I did these sort of collaborative projects around them. And one of those pieces was the Asada's piece, that
Yes.
the video, yeah.
When you did that, I'm so sorry, I missed that.
Oh, no worries.
Tell
There'll
me
be more opportunities.
about that. How did you get to Asada to let you do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great because it encapsulates kind of what the Year of the Mask project
Activism.
was. So I knew someone named James Pierre, who's very heavy in just doing good in the city of Boston, and he told me about Isada when he saw my work, and he was like, "I know the perfect person for you to mask." I had never met her before. I didn't know who she was.
I know Asada.
But when I saw her, I actually recognized her because I had seen her before. I used to work at the Boston Phoenix, and they did a story on the murders that were happening
In Roxbury?
Yeah,
Lower Dorchester,
and
yes.
and so they had this huge article come out, and they had her speak at their event.
Yep.
So I actually had seen her before, and I saw her also at the tribute to Trayvon Martin in Dudley Square.
Okay.
So I was like, oh, I kind of finally put a name to a face. But when I sat down and listened to her story, it was just like, and this is what I said at the event, it was like the world stopped. You know what I mean? Like when someone's talking to you, and it's just like everything stops, and you're just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, like you.
I remember when she lost her sons.
I mean, 6 members of her family.
That's right.
And
she's still going strong.
And so like I was like, okay, I have to do something. Something has to happen. And for whatever reason, she was down. I mean, it's not an everyday thing for someone to be like, hey, can I paint your face? That's weird. But she was totally down for it. And
Yeah.
I think it just came from the fact that I showed so much interest and so much I was so impacted by her story that she was willing to then share that with me. So that's how that project came about.
There it is.
And there it is.
There it is. That is absolutely beautiful. That's Asada. Yeah. How was tell me, after you did this and you did the project, the filming, how did you find, were a lot of people at the opening of that film at NC?
Oh yeah, so
Yeah.
I've showed it twice now. So I showed it,
have?
the first time I showed it was at the Paramount Theater downtown.
I didn't know that.
And then the second showing was the showing that I just had at Northeastern Crossing.
Right.
And yeah, I mean, I think people really, really responded to it. I mean, there's no way you can't respond to her story. And I think what people were really interested in was the interplay between the visuals and her voice. So, and that literally is kind of the experience that I have when I'm talking with people. I'm hearing their voice, and that's giving me signs and giving me understanding as I'm looking at their face. So it's a combination.
when the showing was over, was there a Q&A, and what type of questions were asked of you?
Yeah.
As far as doing this project.
Absolutely. Yeah. There was a Q&A. We had a panel of some incredible people, and everyone had their sort of angle on violence, on community activism, and on health. And some of the questions I got asked were the question you just asked, like, how did this come about?
Yeah.
And then people wanted to know kind of, what is the process like? What does it feel like to mask someone, to be masked? Yeah, I mean, and it was wonderful. I think people really got it. You know, I think they really got it, and that's always amazing to me.
Okay. Well, again, my guest is Daniel Callahan, fabulous multimedia artist, musician, I think a composer, and a little of this and a little of that in the art world. We're going to take a break, and we will be right back.
I lost 2 sons to street violence and 4 nephews. But because what I do, they're not in vain, you know. You keep talking about them, you help other people. Everywhere I go, I feel like my 2 sons still live.
Okay, when I was doing the research on you, I came across something that was written on your website, and it was talking about art making my way of being present and making meaning, finding purpose, and expressing experiences and enjoying life. Explain that phrase to me. What
made me get to that?
Get to that.
Okay, so again, I started really doing this in earnest when I came back from California. This was in 2011.
Okay.
And I was not experiencing any of those things that you just mentioned, like being present, enjoying life, finding meaning. I had none of those. I was at a very dark place.
You and the plant.
Yeah, me and the plant.
I see. Didn't think I'd remember that. You and the plant.
Bringing it back. And so masking actually was a way for me to get back to that. So what it does is, when you mask yourself especially, you're sitting there, and I'm sitting there for like hours. This would take like 3 or 4 hours to do these masks. Wow. And it's like, it's literally a meditation. You literally have to slow down. You have to be very methodical. You stop thinking at one point, you're just in a zone. And there's a very peaceful, meditative aspect to it. Okay. On top of that, these things are so introspective naturally, because you're asking yourself certain questions to get to certain ideas. You're looking at yourself in a mirror for like 3 hours. And it's not a vanity thing at that point. You're simply looking at yourself as a being. Like, what is this thing that is before me, you know? And you're asking all those questions. And so meaning starts to just unfold itself to you. And I had so many moments where it's just like things just clicked. And I guess we get so tied into the busyness of the day, you know, the humdrum of our lives, that we just sort of, we just go from one event to another, and there's not a lot of reflection time. Mm-hmm. So that was just a huge moment of reflection for me. So that meaning came out of that. And then once you have that meaning and you have that inner peace, you really are able to enjoy life more. Life is just so much more of a pleasant experience. Even the difficult times are more meaningful and richer if you have that kind of presence. So that's kind of what I meant when I wrote that on the website.
I was interested, you know, and then I'm saying, well, let me see if I can get an understanding of this. And I said, well, we'll have that point, and I will ask that question.
Thank you.
And I will get that answer. I noticed you do again, going back to, you know, your site and my research on you, besides talking to you a lot, is Is your art coming from who you've been and where you're going? You know, in other words, like I know you've been in California.
Yeah.
And originally, where are you from?
Originally, I was born in Philadelphia.
Ah, okay.
Then we moved to Medford.
Oh, you came all the way back across the world and came to
and then
Massachusetts.
and then we moved to Cambridge.
Okay.
Then I went to college back in Philadelphia.
Back in Phil. Okay.
And then I went to California, and then I came back to Boston.
Oh.
So that's been like all the
It's like
places
a
I've
back
lived.
and forth thing there.
Yeah.
How long have you been back in Boston? Better yet, how long have you been back in Roxbury?
So when I came back to Boston, I was in Roxbury. So
Okay.
from the moment I came back to Boston, I was living in Roxbury. That was that's been 4 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been masking that long?
Yeah, I was masking before. I was masking in California. That's actually where masking started.
Okay.
And it started, I was living with a group of artists. We called ourselves Fear and Fancy.
Yeah.
And so
How did that title come about? Fear and Fancy.
Fear and Fancy. Well, you know, it's there's a writer talking about African ritual. And he was saying that African ritual is very much comprised of these two aspects, fear and fancy, what we fear and what we either desire, dream, aspire to. And so when I heard that, I was like, Fear and Fancy, that's such an amazing name. And we were like, let's just take that as our name. And then we would hold these masquerade balls, but we didn't want to do like the Victorian thing where people came with masks.
Yes.
So we're like, oh, let's just have people paint them. And then we started
Like
researching, and then we started researching indigenous practices of body decoration, and we found out that people have been doing this since the beginning of time. Everywhere.
Eons.
Yeah, everywhere. I mean, literally every indigenous culture has their own tradition of this.
Yes.
And so we were in the Bay Area, Oakland and East Palo Alto, and there's so much diversity there. There are Native American population. There's
I didn't know that.
There's a Latino population. There's Asian population, African population, African American population, Pacific Islander population there. All these different people, but they generally didn't tend to like mix. They would stay sort of in their own enclaves. But at this masquerade ball, all of them were coming together because we knew people from all these different communities.
Different communities.
And they all came together and they all could sort of plug in because they had their own sort of tradition of this stuff. And it became this incredible cultural melting pot. So that was like really the birth of masking. And so we performed there as a group. The music, right, as I have a musical background. So we were performing.
You're a musician too.
Yeah, so we were performing as a music group, having these masquerade balls, and then the first time we performed as a group, we performed with our masks on.
Oh, really?
And it was such like a powerful experience. We're like, okay, we have to do this every time we perform. So that became sort of our calling card. We would always mask before every performance. And so when I came back to Boston, I was removed from that incredible culture. And that's like part of the reason why I was at a low point, and I had to figure out a way to bring that culture back. So that's really where the masking came from.
Exactly. Oh, okay. I was wondering about that. Did you find it hard to incorporate the musical part, the musician part, and the artistic part, the masking part? Did you find that difficult to do?
Yes and no. So when I came back to Boston, I was kind of burnt out from doing music. Music is it's a really tough business because it's so hard to make money. So hard to make money, especially nowadays, you know, and you put so much work into it and it's very little return. So I was burnt out and I needed to take a break from music. So I was like, I'm not going to do music. But what I did do is I listened to a lot of music.
Okay.
And I would listen. Music became such an important aspect of masking. It almost sets the tone. It sets like the vibration of the moment.
Okay.
So music became super important, even though I wasn't playing it. I was listening to it. So in that way, the music and the mask were always sort of linked.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was wondering about that and how that incorporated into that. Now, since you've been back to Boston and the Roxbury area, what have you found to be the most, or I want to say the most interesting part to people, bringing people into seeing what you're doing as far as masking? What do you find that people are more interested in as far as your masking is concerned?
I think people think it's cool.
Okay.
I think, and it is cool. I think it's cool. But there is that cool factor that's like, oh, this would be cool. Let's just like have this be cool. Okay. And it's a little like, I don't want to say surface because everybody takes from it what they want.
What they want, yeah.
But it's simply aesthetic. I'll say that. It's simply aesthetic, and I think it draws people, and that's wonderful. I love that about it. But I also think that on the flip side, there have been people who have instantly just got it, and they got all the implications of it. Boston's another place, just like the Bay, where there's all these different kinds of people here. It's a very diverse city, but it is also segregated. It's a segregated city. So in that way, it's very much like the Bay, and all the potential and the power that we found in the Bay doing things is all right here too. So part of my goal is to bring the Masquerade Ball here in Boston.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It would be amazing here.
That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I would love to see that happen.
Well, it's going to. It's just a question of when.
I'm waiting. I'm waiting. Have you gotten any, sponsors, people that are interested in seeing you do that and be
Yes.
interested in wanting to be part of that?
Absolutely. So I've just started to really formulate
Okay.
it in earnest. But Castle of Our Skins, you had Ash on.
Of course
on
I
here as
did,
well.
which is how you and I met.
Exactly. All this stuff the world's interconnected, man.
Yeah, connection. I think that's wonderful.
But yeah, so she and Castle of Our Skins, I'm collaborating with them on a Masquerade Ball. We're gonna do it.
Great.
And so we're starting to approach other artistic and
venues.
cultural groups
Yes.
in the Boston area to sort of create a roster of people who would perform at this, and then we're also looking for a venue.
Now, when you talk about the Masquerade Ball, what are you, before we go to break,
Sure.
what are you, what type of music are you
It's a good
wanting
question.
to put into the ball?
It's a good question. So the ball, at least how it was in the Bay Area and the way that I would like to bring it here, it's multi-generational. So
Okay.
people from babies to 90 years old,
Okay.
all in one room. It's multicultural, so people from all different types of cultures and ethnicities, all in one room. And the music is, it's the best way to describe it is a potluck.
Okay.
Everyone brings
I can
a dish,
understand that.
everyone eats. You know what I mean? So everybody brings their own tradition to it. If there are people who do capoeira, there will be capoeira there. If there are people who do Caribbean steel drums, there'll be Caribbean steel drums there. If there are people who are into Fela, there'll be music from Fela.
Now, what is Fela?
Fela Kuti? He's like the Nigerian Bob Marley almost.
Okay, never heard of it.
He's an amazing artist. You should definitely check him out. He's no longer with us, but his
Okay.
music is.
Oh, I've never heard.
And he was a big influence actually on our music that we would play as well. But yeah, so you just bring all these cultures and everyone brings their own cultural practice and we celebrate that. That's really what the Masquerade Ball is. It's a celebration of culture.
Okay. Well, we're going to talk more about that because I really want to know. We're going to go to a break right now and we'll be right back to Artist of Color.
What are you, superheroes?
Just four brothers who hate bullies and love this city. Gear up, guys.
Hey, look, it's those guys. Are you good to drive?
I'm fine.
How many did you have?
I should be fine.
You should be.
Go and step out of the vehicle for me.
See ya, buddy. Good luck.
So turns out, buzz driving and drunk driving, they're the same thing, and it costs around $10,000. So not worth it.
Morning, Gary.
We are GetSchooled.com. You want a college education, don't you? You know you do. That's why we're here. We're free and here to guide you through every step of the way, starting with attendance. Gary, financial aid forms. Picking a college, man. You and us. We go together like tacos and Tuesday.
And I love tacos. Go to GetSchooled.com.
Good afternoon and welcome back to Artists of Color. And of course, my guest is Daniel Callahan, multimedia artist. I cannot tell you. And if you've been listening to us, then you know how amazing he is.
Wow.
You know, hey, I've never met anybody like you, and I've met a lot of artists in my community. And to have you on the show is like fantastic. We talked behind the scenes 30 seconds ago, and you were talking about your thesis project.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's talk about this.
So I'm currently in grad school at Emerson College, and I'm in a 3-year master's program there in the Visual Media Arts department. And for my thesis, I'm going to be doing a feature-length narrative film, and it's going to incorporate this masking as an element. It's primarily about an artist. It's semi-autobiographical artist who returns home and can't really figure out what the next step is for him in his life. And he goes on this almost
right there, huh?
critical journey through his own mind, and his own mind is being projected as a series of rooms that he's going through.
Oh.
And at the end of this production, I would like it to end with a actual masquerade ball.
Okay.
So that's the timeline would be a year from now.
Oh, okay.
So this is 2017. That's the goal.
That's the goal.
That's the goal.
Now, do you have a venue as to where you want to have
There,
this culminate and
we've been talking
come
to
out?
a few venues. We haven't decided yet where.
Okay.
We're still certainly open to possibilities. There's one place I have in particular, but I can't say because it's still in negotiation. but yeah.
Who are you having other artists from around the community and the city that are working with you, or that you've asked to, cooperate with you and getting this on the road?
Absolutely. So I mean, there's almost sort of two aspects of this. There's the film, and then there's the masquerade ball. So the film, yes, I've already started.
Who's doing the filming?
So I've written and I will be directing it as well.
Okay, wonderful.
But in terms of the film, I'm starting to assemble my team now.
Okay.
And some people are from the community, some people are from Emerson community.
Okay.
It's going to be a potluck of people in the city. And then in terms of the masquerade ball, again, my primary collaborators are Castle of Our Skins. And we will be talking with more and more groups about adding to that.
Well, I'll tell you, since you're getting together with Castles of Our Skins, well, I suggest that we have both of you guys back on the show.
Ooh, let's do it.
And we can talk about this.
Word.
Going forward.
I'm so down.
Your plan is to do this by 2017?
Correct.
Okay. How far have you gotten?
I am almost finished with the script.
Very good. Have you started a casting?
No, casting we will be doing this summer though, so definitely be on the lookout for that.
Have you got that out there yet?
Not yet.
As far as
I'm still assembling the core team.
Okay.
So once we have that assembled, we will be sending out casting calls.
Tell me what this is.
Oh yeah, so these images are, so I've also started doing masking workshops. So this image is actually from the Queens Museum in New York, where I went to give a workshop on masking. I've also done a masking workshop at the Institute of Contemporary Art, at the Boston Arts Academy School, and at Milton Academy, yeah.
Oh, wow.
And working with teens especially, they really get it. I mean, it's like, there's very little explaining I need to do. They're
because
ready to
it's
go.
like, it's already in their head and in their minds, and they're set. I kind of like get this. I really do, and it's kind of like, finally somebody can bring that out. And somebody can see where we are inside and bringing that forward. And masking does that.
Absolutely.
Masking does that. See, I've never ever heard of anything like this. And when I first met you and I heard about, when I first saw you at the Deli Cafe, and I'm saying, what's he doing? And I've got pictures of you. And it was like, what is he doing? And then I heard from Bibla that this is what you were doing. And I really never got a chance to talk to you because you were, as a matter of fact, you were doing someone at that time.
Yeah, I was masking someone.
You were masking
I
someone.
was in it.
Yeah. You're not kidding because you didn't see nothing around you. It's the zone.
Yeah.
It's really the zone. It's absolutely phenomenal. Just having never heard of anything like that. How did you come up with masking? Masking itself, the concept.
Well, I mean, I wish I could say that I did come up with it, but to be honest,
I know it comes from
it's
way back because other communities, other heritages, other indigenous people have been doing it for centuries.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely.
For
our
that,
heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
absolutely.
centuries.
Yeah.
So, and I also noticed. I'm sorry, but I also noticed that you did Africana studies.
Yes. Yes.
How did that?
Africana studies. I did. So my major in college was animation in the fine arts department, but I minored in Africana studies.
Okay.
And I think the biggest thing I learned from Africana studies is the perspective, the Pan-African perspective.
Okay.
That all throughout the diaspora, people of African descent, which biologically speaking is the entire world.
Thank you.
But in terms of modern history, the people of the diaspora have all these very unique cultures, but they have this underlying base of philosophy, of cosmology, of ways of life, ways of dealing, and of communal aspects that are really universal. And I learned that was very powerful. So I think that's the primary lesson I learned from the studies. I learned a lot of things, but that's what definitely stuck.
Wow. Yeah. I saw that and I said, well, how does that incorporate into what he's doing now and the masking,
Yeah.
It's just, wow.
Yeah, it's definitely all, there are specific things like, the whole concept of Ubuntu, where, I am because we are, instead of the I am because I think, therefore I am, which is like, it's about this connection. Everything is connected, that I can't be who I am unless you are, I can't be my fullest potential unless you have done the same.
Before me.
Exactly, and there's also just belief in ancestors, that, the people who have come before should be honored, and that should be, the things that they've done should be incorporated in what we do. And, there's so many things to learn in studying just the diaspora cultures and their beliefs and value systems.
Do you find when you do masking that you see from the different people that you mask, you see images or pieces of the ancestral culture coming forward?
I think so. I think that I think that we all have access to this sort of ancestral well or pot of memory that we may not consciously understand, but that I think because all things are connected through time, that we can access that and we can pull that out of ourselves. So I've been to the continent of Africa. I've been to South Africa.
Oh, you have.
But I'm not, I'm not from there.
No.
But
in a way, you are.
Because I am, and because I've sort of researched that and understand that about myself, I can connect to that. Mm-hmm. The connection hasn't been broken, even through distance and time.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I think that is a part of it. And it's changed the way I look at people. Like, people really are works of art. They are walking works of art that have been being shaped over millennia and time and circumstances and struggle and joy. And that's the canvas that I get to work with, all that richness that's already there. I just try to bring it out,
Yeah. I love that. I love that, because learning. And again, we're going to go to a break, and we'll be right back, because there's lots more to talk about. We'll be right back. Good afternoon, we're back. And of course with me is my guest, Daniel Callahan, masking artist extraordinaire. During the break, I don't know if, I'm sure everyone noticed about the film and you're in that film you were masking you, but then you were doing a visual piece. But can we talk about that?
It was a collaboration with a painter, Destiny Palmer.
Oh, okay, that's who that was. Okay.
She's just an incredible painter from the Boston area.
Okay.
She taught at Boston Arts Academy. She was actually the initial person who organized that workshop that I did at Boston Arts Academy.
Was that part of the workshop that we just saw?
No, that was just our own
collaboration.
Piece. Yeah, but
okay.
it led to that workshop happening because she's a teacher there, and so I did it with her students. But so that was a piece where again, it's sort of a conversation through crafts. I mean, she's an abstract painter. I don't consider myself a painter, but obviously I use paint, and that's actually what I do.
What type of paint do you use? I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's get to that. What type of paint do you use when you're masking someone?
So I use a very non-caustic water-based paint for children.
Okay.
So it won't affect the skin in any way, because I know a lot of people are worried about that when they're thinking of the concept.
Being masked.
It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Am I gonna break out? Is this gonna,
Is this gonna kill me?
Yeah, because the face is such a, whatever. It's a very important piece of our body, and we need that to be okay. So
yes.
I totally understand that. So it's a kid's face painting.
Okay.
Paint. Yeah.
All right. Wow. So when you did this collaboration, how long did it tell me more about this?
Sure. So we went into it just saying, okay, we both approach this very differently, and we both admired each other's work.
Okay.
So that was really like the basis of the collaboration. So what you might have started seeing in the visuals of the film was that I was kind of incorporating her pattern making into my mask design and into the design that I chose to give her. And she was also incorporating certain styles that she had seen in my mask in her work
into
as well.
her work. Okay. I kind of noticed that. The little bits and pieces that I saw in the film.
At the end, when you have us looking at each other, because it really kind of was us looking at each other's work, and my mask and her painting as a backdrop, all these things kind of work together and end up being this sort of unified piece.
Okay.
But it's as simple as two artists coming together to make something.
Form the same piece of artistic
From
work.
and from a like a communal or understanding of each
Of each
other's work.
Yeah.
And appreciation of each other's work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I know you said you've done classes or work with Boston Arts Academy.
Mm-hmm.
How did you find that working with the teens, with the young people? I'm sure that had to have been amazing.
It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, I love working with teens. You know, I've been working at the ICA for quite some time with the Teen Arts Council, which is a teen program there.
Now, where are they located?
The Institute of Contemporary Art is in.
In Brookline?
No, they moved to the Seaport.
Oh, I had no idea that they moved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've been there for some time now.
Okay.
And they have just a plethora of youth programming. I mean, they really reach a lot of youth in Boston. But working with the BAA students was amazing because they're all already artists. Okay. You know, they all have that sort of, you know, they have that ability to express themselves visually already. So, you know, it was wonderful working with them, seeing, you know, just how they embrace material, seeing how some of it made them a little uncomfortable, because you know it's a very intimate thing to mark your face and to share that publicly.
Is this one of your classes?
This is one of the classes as well. So I have a couple of activities I do with them. First, I have them write. I have them look at themselves in the mirror and just write.
Okay, let's talk about this process.
Sure. So there's a few things just to get them to start thinking about sort of the approach that I take. I get them to stare in the mirror and just write everything that comes to mind. And then they read that to themselves. And then I get them to stare again. It's like this time, you know, try to see your face as not as am I pretty, am I ugly, or is my hairdo looking right, is my, you know, the sort of aesthetic things, but look at yourself as a object, as a canvas.
Oh, okay.
You know, look at your face as something that you're going to be working with, and just notice different aspects of it. And so they do that. Sometimes I have them look at each other, which is hilarious because everyone gets all nervous and stuff, but it's great. It's like you can't say anything, just look at the person. Yep. You know, and just be with that person for a moment. So it's sort of like these activities trying to sort of train them to get into the moment, to start looking beyond sort of the surface of things. And once they then start masking themselves, they're in more of a place to engage it.
Okay. Wow, that's an interesting process. To me, it reminds me of mirror therapy. You're looking in a mirror.
Yeah.
And you're looking at you, and you're just looking at you. Instead, you're looking at someone else, and they're looking at you, and they're going by what they see. Just what they see. And then you're putting that on you. You're doing you, or you're putting it on canvas. That's fantastic. Wow. That is so beautiful.
Yeah, and I mean, the masks that they came up with were incredible.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you still doing that?
I am. I'm still open to it. I mean, I have, the last workshop I did was at the ICA. Okay. And, you know, I've had my studies, so I've had to slow down a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, but I'm always open, and I love doing that work.
What's the future for Daniel Callahan as far as masking is concerned?
Well, you know, everything right now is about this film.
Okay.
You know, that's going to take over my life for the next
at least for a year.
The next year. You know, yeah, and then, but I mean, looking forward, you know, I have a vision to go on the road and do this across the United States.
Really?
And mask somebody from every state
Corner
of the country.
Wow.
That's a goal, and then after that, I wish to take this all over the world. I mean, it's a universal thing, you know, and I want everyone who is interested or who thinks that they might be interested to have a chance to engage in it.
Jump on the bandwagon.
Yeah.
Yeah, jump on the bandwagon. Daniel, I kind of like lost for words here, and I'm never lost for words. I just, you know, it's a phenomenal thing. I never ever heard of it before until I met you, and then to see, you know, to talk with you and see what this is really about and learn more about masking and to understand the intricate parts of it, you know, and the fact that you go from different industries and professions and bringing all that, you know, and culminating that into masking into one, you know, being, you know, being this. And I assume from what I'm, you know, from our conversation here, is that it really is, it's beingness. And bringing that being out on a person. You know, what you see is what you know, what you mask. And that is just phenomenal. I've never heard of it, and it's probably never will have heard of it again. But I'm just surprised, you know, as to how, you know, it's going forward, and to realizing that there's such an, you know, such a program about, you know, from you as an artist.
Yeah.
Doing such a thing.
I'm surprised
How
too.
long have you been doing? I have to ask because I totally wondered how long have you been doing this? Well, I know you were in California at one time.
Sure.
And that's actually where it started.
Sure.
So I'm asking here before we go, how long has this been?
I'd
moving
say
forward?
about like 8 years.
See, didn't know that. So it's been about 8 years.
Yeah.
And you've been here, what, back in Boston, in Roxbury for about 4 or 5 years? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is like unbelievable, absolutely unbelievable. And to see real, like when you were at BAMS, and I saw your work there, it was like fantastic. I said, okay. And then talking to Ash says, you know, you gotta have him on your show. And I said, yes, Ash, we're working that one. But then, you know, you move around a lot, so catching up with you when you're actually stationary was, oh, I finally got him.
I know.
But no, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. And I am very glad that we got to get together.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me here.
Oh, thank you. I'm very honored. And to learn and know about what masking is about, you know, and what the concept is. You know, human beings are human beings.
Yeah.
And, you know, when you realize, to me, you know, well, to me, we all wear a mask. We all wear a mask. And for you to be able to bring that mask out, that is like fabulous for it to happen.
Thank you.
Daniel, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For being with me today. And to my television audience, I thank Daniel Callahan for being with us today and talking about his project, Masking. And I can't wait for the Masquerade Ball to come. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And we'll be back because we got to keep in touch with the film and how it's progressing.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
It's good.